of week 4. Our primary work today is for you to do some workshopping on your Module 1 work and prep it to turn in for Sunday. It's due at 10 a.m. In this video, I'm going to talk really briefly about today's readings on typography and then offer some suggestions and point you towards some documents that should help you edit, revise, and polish your Module 1 work. We had 2 readings about type today, a chapter by Speakerman and Ginger in which they argue type is everywhere, and a chapter by Stephen Heller about how we understand what type does. For today's reading response, I asked you to find a document with typography that you would argue perfectly fits what the document is and is doing. My example was the decorative font face used by Black Rifle Coffee Company. I argued that its look and feel convey a grungy sort of appeal that really fits the company's audience. A student from 360 in the past shared this example, arguing that the typography was playful, energetic, fun, crazy, not serious. Another student shared another coffee example and argued that the font used for their logo was simple, elegant, and minimal. One of the arguments that Heller makes about type in the chapter for today is that type is the voice of a page. To go back to the examples from Tuesday, what voice do you hear looking at this page? Or this? What voice does this font face evoke for you? Heller also argues that the type itself provides visual cues and clues about the type of document we're looking at. In the introduction to class video, I shared these examples. We immediately recognize from the page layout this is a resume, but the traditional serif font on the left provides more clear clues as to what the document is, because the font face fits the document better than the informal handwritten look of Comic Sans on the right. One of my favorite Heller quotes is where Heller argues that type is influenced by fashions and trends. Some typefaces are created to transcend a particular time or context, like Helvetica. Others, however, are designed deliberately to reflect a particular cultural moment. And a great example of this are the Art Nouveau fonts that are meant to replicate the Art Nouveau type of the late 1800s and early 1900s. If we zoom to the mid-1990s, we see grungy, eroded, messy type emerging as reflecting the cultural norms and popular norms of the time. Heller also argues that 3 things have shaped type design: utility, how a font functions in a document; aesthetics, how a font looks on the printed page and across digital spaces and screens; and style, what cultural code the font evokes. I would encourage you all to pause this video and to do a little bit of type exploration to get us warmed up for next week. Next week, we're going to be talking more and more in depth about typography and get started on Module 2. So first, let's go on a type scavenger hunt. Pause this and find a font used for a brand of beer, a type of house paint, a candy bar name, a toilet paper brand, and a coffee company. And when you have the examples gathered, think about the characteristics of each font face. How well does the font function? Is it readable? Is it legible? How does it look? Is it appealing, memorable? Does it evoke a particular cultural style? Next, with a beer brand specifically in mind, go find a font used by another brand of beer. Compare the 2. What similarities or differences do you see? And how might you explain these similarities or differences? Next, let's do some experimenting with type. I'd suggest that you Google Lorem Ipsum and find some Lorem Ipsum text. And this is Latin text often used by designers to mock up a document for which they don't actually have content for yet. Copy and paste a few lines into a new Word doc. Copy and paste again. Highlight the second chunk of Lorem Ipsum text and set it in a font you've never used before in Word. And do this a couple of times. Finally, let's continue experimenting with type in Word in a new doc or below your Lorem Ipsum text doc. Type 1 letter. Highlight it. Change the font size to 120 points or 200 points or so. Copy and paste a few times, then set each instant of the letter in a different font face. Compare the differences that you see in those individual letter forms. Next week, and as we move into Module 2, we're going to do a ton more work with typography, but I hope this gives you a taste of where we're going next week. The work I'd like you to prioritize for today is workshopping and wrapping up Module 1. Module 1 is due on Sunday. It should be created using the template available on D2L and should include an introduction, a rhetorical analysis portion, and a conclusion. And last Thursday, I shared some sample student work with you that I hope is helpful in just getting a sense of what I'm looking for. I mentioned on Tuesday we're not going to workshop as a class today. I couldn't figure out a way to do this well in the short amount of time that we have. Instead, I'm going to encourage you to workshop your document yourself. If you head to D2L and into our class and into our shared class Google Drive folder, there's a Module 1 workshopping subfolder, and there are 2 documents there that you might use to polish your work and prep it to turn in. The first is more reflective. It asks you, what are you feeling strong about for Module 1? What do you still have questions or you're not sure about? The second document is actually my rubric for grading Module 1. It's going to be what I use to review and evaluate your work. So it's a great tool for checking to make sure you've hit some of the key things I'll be looking for in your Module 1 work. If you use either of the documents, please make a copy or download them to your computer. Don't overwrite the documents that are shared in the Google Drive folder. If you have any questions for me or you want me to take a look at your Module 1 work before you turn it in on Sunday, text me or email me. If you want feedback, I'd suggest you reach out to me by, say, 5 o'clock on Friday. That'll give me time to review your draft, offer some comments, get the comments back to you, and for you to decide how you want to revise before you turn in the final draft on Sunday.